Hey, it's CDA and welcome back to Satisfactory. As I promised last time around, in this episode we'll be talking a little bit about what I've learned from this build and where I will be taking the channel for Satisfactory at least moving forward. Now, if you're not interested in that and you just here for the builds, there will be no builds in this episode, so yeah, just managing your expectations up front. So this build made me want to quit. And I'm not kidding at all. About halfway through, I just wanted to close down the game, not open it ever more, and just like toss it out of the window. The reason for that will require a little bit of context, so bear with me. So when I started this build, I knew I was going to be very busy that week. So I know I was also falling a little bit behind on automating some of the stuff that we had unlocked for a long time, but kept making it by hand. We just came out of a period where I made several of the larger projects like the bus to the oil platform and things like that. So I felt like, okay, I need something that's relatively quick. I want to get a lot of progress done. So I'm going to make this build that's going to fix all of that in one go. Now, in hindsight, that might have been a little bit naive. Combining about 7 projects into one is not necessarily something that makes things go quicker, but that's just in retrospect, because of course right then and there I was like, well, I'll just keep the layout simple, I'll plan everything out, I combine all these things in one so it will take me less time. And to be honest, it might have actually worked out that way if I would have made separate buildings for each of those items. Then on a whole, it might have taken me longer, but the end result was very different from what I intended. And what I mean by that is that the setting up the basics was actually really fast, but the belts and supply lines ended taking up like 70 to 80% of the build time. Just getting all those belts in order, making sure all the sorters, splitters, etc. were on their correct places, making sure I got all the ore coming in and actually building the entire supply line for that. Side note, I also really dislike power lines. Having to power up my facility wasn't actually the most work, but I still didn't really like the process. And there was a lot of power to be done because I had so many facilities. And in the end, to be honest, that took out most of the fun. I had like 3 evenings in a row, I think, where I was just managing belts, powering up facilities, placing down foundations, but not actually seeing any end product from that work. Now, it wasn't all bad, because honestly, when I got most of that out of the way, once I started actually completing the aesthetics of the building, just making sure it looked pretty, that was very satisfying. It still took some time, but to be honest, that was very much worth it. And I also think I figured out why. See, the bottom line is this: making these large builds in this way means that you will take a long time to see any payoff from all your work. In the scope of this game, a build like this that took me like 15 to 16 hours isn't that much, but for the average player that might only build for a few hours every night, and I'm one of those by the way, that means you'll be working on a single project for weeks. There is no leveling up in between, there's no bosses to kill, no loot to get. In short, there is no real sense of progress at all, other than the fact that you can slowly see your buildings coming up from the ground. Now, obviously, there's a huge subjective element to this, because different people like and dislike different things, and that is a good thing. That said, I've seen a lot of people commenting things like, I've never made it past milestone X or Y, or something like, at this point in the game it just got too complicated for me, so I just kind of gave up, and similar things like that. Which leads us to the question, how can you ensure Satisfactory stays fun even if you're only playing for a few hours every night? Well, I'm actually going to start a brand new series on Satisfactory to deal exactly with that. The goal of that series will be to showcase a playstyle that ensures you keep seeing steady progress, minimize the amount of busy work you need to do, yet still allow you to make a great looking factory. In short, I'm going to be doing exactly what this channel is about, and that is optimize the hell out of our gameplay. Basically, that will allow me to bring everything I learned in the first playthrough, because remember, this was my first playthrough, and combine it into a brand new playstyle. I hope you're as excited about this as I am. Let me know in the comments, and I will catch you in the next one.